Thank you for your awesome patience and waiting for that week. We're back on track now with another tool video from the Minimal Steward. Let's get right down to it. When I first started minimalism, I didn't really know that I was even doing minimalism. I started with and I don't joke here, I had 47 coats in my closet. I had a coat for almost every week of the year. I didn't need that many coats, and so I started with my wardrobe. And a lot of people start there. And it's a really easy place because there's less emotional attachment to the clothes that you're wearing. And so that's where a lot of people begin. It's easy to manage, it's easy to work through, and it's easy to start with. So when I started with my coats, I started winnowing, or taking down the massive number of coats that I had and reducing them. And at first it was emotional, perhaps. And then when I finished winnowing down the coats, started looking around and realized that my entire closet was also full of even more stuff that wasn't in decent repair, that I had to handle, and eventually I started winnowing that down. When I finished with my wardrobe, that's when I started taking that lens that I had taken from the wardrobe that I had just discarded and given away to different locations, different donation places, and then from there, I started looking to the rest of my environment. So today, now that I don't have a bunch of that stuff, as you've seen on the Instagram, also don't forget to check that out because we have a lot of really great inspirational quotes there, as well as some documentation of what things I'm going through and also the tools weeks that I've been going through with you guys while we've been doing these videos. When I started going through my wardrobe, I realized that I needed to pare down everything, and I'm down to now a 37 item count in my wardrobe. Now that's just a random number and it fits for me, but you will have a different number and different needs. My entire life is centered around Colorado, and so it has very cold winters and also very hot summers, and usually in one day. So I actually have a biannual wardrobe that I've mentioned before, and each section has about 37 to 40 items in it, and I manage those pieces of clothing in my life. And so when I started that idea and I moved from all the clothes that were in my wardrobe to what I have today, it provided an intentionality to my life, and also was the first places for my experimenting with minimalism. When I turned that lens around and I started looking at the rest of my environment, I realized that I was hoarding a lot of things. A friend of mine, about 8 years ago, had stated that my apartment looked like the reject set of Harry Potter at one point in time. And it was immense. We had candelabras, we had things hanging from the ceiling, we had different treasure chests and swords and a whole bunch of stuff. Bookshelves, books, candlesticks, all sorts of manner of things. It was quite whimsical, but ultimately not really effective, and I didn't even really know it was in my house in the first place. And then those things started to drop away. I realized I didn't need to keep all of that. Keeping those items is something that's going to weigh you down. And some of the things that I had were really important to me, and I felt like I had an emotional attachment to. Remember our ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos, our character, pathos is our emotion, and logos is our logic and our planning center. When I realized I had such attachments to these things, I had to come up with a plan, and I had to learn how to manage that. And I had to do what was relevant and healthy for me. Regarding the relevance and healthiness of my choices, I started looking at the things that I cared about, the gifts that I had gotten from various friends over the years, and things that I didn't really need, that I just sort of amassed. I got rid of the kerosene lanterns that I had. I got rid of the candelabras that I had. I started moving those things away and remembering them. And I wrote some of those down, and I also did another thing with them. The next thing that I did with all of the objects that I owned, that I really cared about, and I did the same thing, and I'll actually put up some of those pictures of the thing that I did, but I took pictures of the things that mattered, the things I didn't want to carry anymore. And then that way I could look back and reference them. And over the years, as I've looked through those, some of the folders I haven't looked through, just delete. And then I just let them move on. And I don't need to carry those memories anymore. Because even though I may not have the physical object, the memory is still a weight for you to carry. And it's not really adding any value to my life. It keeps you trapped in the past and doesn't allow you to move forward from there. Those are from the stuffed animals that I had when I was a child. And I counted 483 stuffed animals. They came in 8 Tupperware boxes, and they came from my childhood home. And when I had to deal with those, I had to learn how to process through all of those memories and emotions that I had. I've kept a few. But what that caused was a little bit of grief, a little bit of sadness. But that's okay, taking the time to grieve and process those things. I did this with my mother, actually. We processed all of these things, and we looked through all the stuffed animals, and we thought about the memories, and we laughed about them, and we had all that time together. And that helped me process and go through that grief period. Grief is going to change for every individual. Some people will take a day, some people will take a week, sometimes it won't ever leave, and that's okay. It's how you manage that and how you stay relevant and healthy. To wit, I also still have to deal with 200 stuffed animals that I'm still processing, and I have a plan that I'm going to be going through, and I have a couple of ideas about where to put those. I have 2 women's shelters that also house their children that I will be removing those stuffed animals and handing them off to, so that it brings new life to those objects. We already have so many of these things. We can just recycle them and have them get a new life. And just like any object in your life, I would suggest the same. Just like I'm processing the remainder of the stuffed animals that I've had when I was a youth, I am now going to ask you to do the same thing. Find an item in your life, or items, doesn't matter, as many items as you can handle. Go through them. Take the time to process them. Feel a little bit of that grief. Talk to the people that you had those memories with about that object, and then find a way to give it away. I want you to find a method to release the object that is weighing you down, that you don't use anymore, that just sits in a closet or sits in that garage that's overcrowded, and really make sure that you pay attention to having everything in your actual location. One of the secrets to minimalism that people have not told you a lot of times, they tend to have off-site storage units, and they keep everything over there, and it's gone, it's away from you, and you don't actually need to deal with it, and it's out of sight, out of mind. But it's not. That weight is still there. Somebody has to pay for that storage unit. A story about storage units, in fact, my father had spent over the years in the neighborhood of $10,000 on his storage unit over a period of about 5 years to house all of the things that he thought were super important. He didn't even remember what was in there. He didn't know how to process them. He didn't know what to do with them all. So he just kept paying month after month. And imagine the amount of travel, imagine the amount of experiences that you could develop with $10,000. It's insane the way that we just keep all the stuff around us. Be intentional, process these things, and take this week to find what is relevant to you and what isn't bringing that nurturing part to your life, and then let it move on. Give it a new story. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of your stories and what you process through and what some of the challenges that you may have had are. You can also see our blog and also read more about these concepts, and we are going to see some of that now that the week is through. And we're back on track. Same thing with Instagram, and you'll see some of the people that I meet when I'm going to process the stuffed animals I've got to get through. And we'll also give you some shots of the storage unit for my father as well, and you'll see some of the insane stuff that he carried around. A broken zither? Do you even know what a zither is? He had so much stuff in there. Thank you for watching again. It's been a great journey so far, and let's keep it going. We're going to return to our principles and philosophies next month. I guess that would be this upcoming month here. So you're going to get a double week and a double serving of this. Thanks so much again. Stay curious.